Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Get Off My Lawn podcast, the best show that nobody is watching. Although you guys know what I'm going to say out there in Cyberland, you can help us. You can change that. You can share the links and let your friends know. And you know what? If you don't like the show, let the people that you don't really like know and have them watch it. I don't care who watches it. We're good with everything. So let's see here. I was going to do this when we came on and I forgot. Here we go. You guys get to look at me for just a second. Real quick, I want to run through a couple quick announcements like we always do. If you are watching live out there on YouTube or Facebook or the other Facebook, then two different Facebook pages for those of you that aren't aware. Please get those comments in the live chat section so we can see them as they come along. And if you have comments or questions that pertain to what we're still talking about, we'll get them up on the screen and try to get your questions answered the best that we can. Also, again, just share this. Hit the like button. If you haven't thumbed it up, please do. Let all the algorithms know that you care about what we're doing here. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do. If you haven't subscribed to the Facebook page, please do. They're both Sandhills Media. And then we also have another Facebook page where we pretty much just put these up called the Get Off My Lawn podcast Facebook page. So you can go like and follow that as well. And of course, real quick, before I forget, the views and opinions expressed on this podcast belong to the individual expressing them and do not reflect the views of any of our sponsors. We are not offering any legal or medical advice tonight because we're not lawyers. We're not doctors. Most of us at one point in our lives have stayed at Holiday Inn Express, so we do still kind of know what we're talking about, but we're not licensed doctors or lawyers. I don't think anybody on this panel is anyway. And then, of course, we are a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network, and we love to shout that out. You can go check out all of the cool shows on sdrn.us. Great Second Amendment stuff, freedom stuff, firearm stuff. Go check it out. There's something for everyone on there. So go see what all those shows are. Again, wait till this is done, and then go check those out and listen to all of those. But all the podcast forms do go up there. All right, I think that's it. We're going to go back here to the Brady Bunch view and say hello to all of our guests tonight. So let's see. In no particular order, we're going to try and do this as we go along. So, all right, you know what? We're just going to start with the bottom left corner and work our way counterclockwise, kind of like we did last night. So. Or last week, I mean. Yes, thank you. Last week. And I don't know if Brooke's trying to call me a loser there, but
I have to look at my hand to see which is my left, so I have a clue which corner you're talking about. But then I'm like, oh, it's backwards. So is he talking about Amanda?
I actually have a friend who, when she's driving, when you say make a left turn, she puts both hands up at the top of the wheel and does this. And then, okay, that's an L, that's left. So
I got one better. I have some friends that say, turn on my side, turn on your side.
Oh, that's totally what me and my mom do. You don't even try the left and right thing. It's just your way, my way.
Some people with crazy words like left or right, and other people, you can't mix them up with words like north or east because that's just going to goof them up. So anyway, all right, let's introduce tonight's guest. We'll start with this lady on the screen. You know what? If you don't know who Amanda Suffocal is, then you've been under a rock. She's a cool lady. How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm fine. Thanks for having me.
You bet. I know you've been busy, and with all the things that you do, plus all the other things that you do, plus all the other things that you do. So I'm glad that you've had time to carve out your day to hang out with us. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's always great to do it. It just is. Sometimes it's past my bedtime, as crazy as it is. My aerospace engineering world, I was so used to getting up early that I still get up early.
That's what people tell me. That's what people say when they're used to that. So,
yeah.
But thank you very much, Amanda, for joining us. Next up, we will, you know what? We're going to do ladies first. So we'll skip that fella on the bottom. We'll move over to the other lady. We've got Brooke Cheney from A Great Start Shooting School joining us tonight. How are you?
I am good. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Long-time listener, first-time caller, I see. So
yeah,
by long time, I mean, you did join us last week out in the live chat. So
Yeah.
You guys know what she said last week? She said if she's going to be on the show, she wanted to do some recon to know if she really wanted to be on the show. That's what she said. So
Maybe just kind of. Perhaps.
I don't blame you.
My husband gets me nervous about these things because, as you all know, being in the gun community, some people are a little bit crazy out there.
I know, and I've tried to find some of the craziest people that I know, and I've assembled them into a panel, and now we have a show tonight. So, all right, but thank you very much for joining us and on your maiden voyage on the show with us tonight. Glad to have you along. And then we do have another lady who just joined. So our friend and NFOA president, which is Nebraska Firearms Owners Association president, Trish Harold, is in the house now and in the car. She's in the car in the house. How are you?
Hi, everybody.
Glad that you could join us tonight and happy to have you along. And if you've been watching this show for any amount of time, you've seen Trish come through a time or two. A lot of these guests, you'll see what everybody has in common here in just a little bit. You know what? There, we'll put Trish up on the screen so everybody gets a chance to see which one she is. Of course, if you're watching, then you can also see that her name is in the corner. Everybody's got their name on the screen. All right, let's move over to the fellas here. So also, and now in the middle, he's got the Alice position in the Brady Bunch. There,
Right.
We've got from riding shotgun with Charlie. This is Charlie of all people. How are you?
I am living the dream and doing fabuloso.
Good.
Fabuloso.
Good.
I'm
good.
glad to be here. Thanks for having me. And it's great to see so many friendly faces and people that are friends. When you popped me on the screen, I was looking at another window and I heard Brooke's voice. I'm like, oh no, here we go.
What is it with you two? Because as soon as she saw you come in, she was like, "You didn't tell me that he was going to be here."
Right. Some people you got to talk to beforehand, right?
Yeah. See, and that's what I said. I said, you know what? I don't let everybody else know who else is going to be here because you know what is sometimes I think that I might get guests that scare people off. So
it's because we live in neighboring states. We have the same trauma and PTSD and being anti-gun
right.
states. So you
Right.
know, it's like that hostage thing going on.
If anything, yes, that should bring you two closer together as friends, not
Very-
bitter enemies. It's
Yeah.
of course we're all kidding. Nobody actually, to my knowledge, nobody on this panel dislikes anybody else, but we do love to pick on each other because we are like a family around here.
Very Jerry Springer of you, I got to tell you.
Take care of yourselves and each other. All right, let's move to the top of the screen up there by the Sandhills Defense logo, currently hidden a little bit. We've got Patrick Collins, who is hanging out in his gun range, which is in no way resembles his living room or any other room of his house. So Patrick runs a very cool website called The Gun Food. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Hopefully everybody out there is doing all right as well.
I hope they are. If not, we'll probably hear about it out in the comments here pretty quick. But that's all right. That's what the comments are out there for. So glad to have you along. And those of you that are not aware, if you go to thegunfood.com and put in your order, if you use the discount code Sandhills, you'll get 5.56% off that order. So thanks, Patrick, for accommodating us with that. We appreciate that too.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right. And then, of course, rounding out the panel, we've got the fully semi-official co-host, Defense Dad. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. How about you?
Doing all right. Doing all right. Had a day off. Like I said earlier, didn't have a whole lot to get done today. And I got most of it accomplished. So pretty happy.
Cool.
Let's go back here. All right. So we're going to jump into this discussion. But before we do, we're going out on 3 different platforms right now, which is not a free thing that StreamYard gives us. We have to pay them for that. And we would not be able to pay them for that without all of our sponsors, including our newest one, which is me and my beautiful bride. So Sandhills Defense LLC is our new venture. I've stepped out into the world of instruction, and I think that we're getting blessed for that is about to blow up, I hope. Judging by all of the response that has happened lately with my my latest women's handgun and self-defense fundamentals class. After I put that up, made it live, we had 3 students that signed up over about the first week, and then I put some posts up from the completed course that we had just finished. Put some pictures and video up from that. And overnight, literally, I went to bed. We had 3 students registered. I woke up in the morning and all 10 spots were filled. So very happy. And now I've got so many people that are messaging us saying, hey, when can you do another one? When will you do another one? And there's just not enough time. It's good. So we're happy with that. So go check us out, sandhillsdefense.com. You can call or text. Text would be best because I don't always have that phone available to answer during the daytime, but 402-851-0726. If you do call and we don't answer, leave a voicemail. So again, thanks to all of our sponsors for bringing us live across 2 Facebook pages and YouTube. Okay, all the preliminary stuff is done, kids. We're going to have a fun discussion. We're not going to take turns and go around the horn because I hate doing that and keeping track of who has spoken and who has not. So this is just 7 cool people hanging out around a table, having a discussion. You don't have to wait your turn. We'll just try
Free for all.
Not free for all. We'll just try our best not to walk on each other. And again, out there in the live chat, let us know that you're out there, because if you're not commenting, we can't see you. So let us know that you're out there. Get those comments, and if you have questions, then we will try to get them up on the screen as best we can. But again, sometimes the conversation just keeps moving and we don't get to it. So sometimes I want to explain that happens. Oh, you know what? We need to put this up on the screen real quick, because if somebody would be nice enough to make us a t-shirt that said hashtag I want to be like Amanda Suffocal, I think everybody on the panel would order one. So you've already got your preliminary orders. Charlie's in charge of making the t-shirts, I think. So stay tuned.
What?
Oh, you didn't know?
So you guys have to hear the backstory of how that t-shirt happened. It was at Gun Rights Policy Conference at the AmCon, and Cheryl Todd and I were both co-emceeing. And at lunchtime, they called me out of the room on some trumped up whatever and made me hike clear across the hotel over to the other side to see Paul Lathrop from Polite Society Podcast. And when I got over there, Paul was like, what? I don't know. Right? So I turned around and I went back. And when I went back, everybody that is in the room has one of these hot pink shirts that say hashtag I want to be like Amanda Suffocal. So there's like 50 people in the room all wearing the exact same shirt. I was dying laughing.
So now it's just industry standard that everyone should want to be like Amanda Suffocal.
So it's just a funny thing. And then Charlie and I, we were at Masad Ayub's class, and I come down to breakfast, and Charlie's wearing that shirt.
It was great, because as soon as Amanda spotted a hot pink shirt across the hotel lobby, she starts laughing.
She didn't even have to see the face to know it was you, huh?
Exactly. She knew exactly what shirt I was wearing.
That's awesome. Yeah, we all need one, but you know what? Maybe it was one of those things where you had to be there too, and the people that have them, it's kind of a special thing. So maybe we should rethink selling these. Maybe we should make the new batch up in teal instead.
Teal. Yeah, there you go.
We could do that. Then the pink ones are the special ones. All right, so I have assembled this motley crew of guests tonight because, with the exception of Defense Dad, who he's here because he's the opposite of all this, but all the rest of you are instructors. And so, and now, as I just said, me too. So I want to just talk a little bit about, we've got now half the nation, I shouldn't say half the nation, but half of our states now have some form of constitutional or permitless carry law that is passed, and I think all of the new ones are now in effect, are they not? Are there any states that are still waiting?
Yeah, one. One doesn't go into effect until January 2023.
Yeah.
Okay. So 24 states right now have people who don't need to have a permit to carry, and again, I like to leave these evergreen and not talk a whole lot about events that date things, but just a couple days ago, there was an incident in Indiana where somebody who was exercising his constitutional right in Indiana to carry a firearm who
He actually had a license.
did he have a permit too? Okay,
Yes.
so he didn't need one. He already had one. But either way, he was exercising his right to carry that concealed handgun in that shopping mall, and he was able to dispatch what would have been a very, very, very tragic spree shooting. It still, some people did get killed and of course injured, but we all know that it could have been a lot worse, and it would have been a lot worse had he not done that. Now, I don't know what training he was required to go through, if any, in the state of Indiana, and none of you are Indiana instructors, but I kind of want to talk about just training in general. We had an episode here probably a year ago on whether or not it should be mandated. The entire panel all agreed it should not be mandated, and I don't imagine any of you would feel differently. If you do, you're free to speak up. But whether or not it should be mandatory, you should get some sort of training. If you're going to carry a firearm in public, you need to learn how to use it. And now, sometimes that means hiring an instructor. Sometimes that means just going out and getting some practice and learning how to operate the firearm safely and responsibly. But somewhere you're going to have to learn what safe and responsible gun handling means. Now, I think the best way to do it is when you have somebody there to teach you. I learn the best when I'm in a classroom setting, or it doesn't have to be a classroom, but I learn the best when I've got somebody in person that can not only show me what to do, but show me what I'm doing wrong, correct me on the spot, and everything else. If I have my grip not right, then they're right there to correct it before I build a bad habit. If I'm flinching or blinking or anything like that when I fire, then call me out on that, or whatever is the case. All the things that as instructors we see people do, and of course it's our job to say, hey, this is what you're doing, this is what you should be doing, let's work on this instead. And I don't do that well over electronic teaching, whether it's live or just watching a YouTube video or something like that. So I want to get perspectives tonight from those of you who do get paid to teach people. And then Defense Dad, I want your perspective too, as somebody who's not an instructor, but you've been through some instruction and you've done a lot of practicing on your own time. And so I kind of want to get I want to get all those perspectives out there for anybody who's watching and listening. So first and foremost, even though we are instructors, we don't believe that it should be mandated by the state or the federal government that people should have to go hire somebody to train them, or even if it's free. I don't think any of us would be okay with that. But is there anybody that thinks that instruction is not necessary to exercise your Second Amendment right to not only keep but to bear arms?
I think that the big thing to think about is the fact that if you are called upon to have to use your gun, you're going to wish that you had hours and hours and hours of training for that moment in which you're called upon. And so the thing is that I think that as a responsible gun owner, I work on the premise that I want to go to different instructors and go to one or two every year to keep honing my skills and to keep working, because should I be forced to use my gun, I want to be prepared to be able to do it successfully and expediently, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, but what I like to do, and I've taken a few different training classes, and this is something that I always do, and it's just my habit of doing this as a salesperson. When I'm working with somebody else and I see how they do and I hate the word pitch, but how they do their sales pitch, then I glean from that if I can. And if I can take something from the way that this person does it that makes me better at doing that job, then I'm going to do that better. So for me, it's not only the curriculum and the content of the training, but it's also how the instructor does it, things that they say, things that they do. I want to learn. I want to be taught by different people who have different styles, so that I can hone my style and learn who I am now as an instructor and how I'm going to do things. So I really like that part too.
Like Amanda, it's I just got back from SIG. I went to SIG 2 weeks ago for their defensive handgun. And when I go to other camps and like babes with bullets, they don't do that anymore, but it's like they'd have the advanced group and the beginner group. And I'm like, I don't care which group I go to, because like you're talking about, John, is like you can learn in any class, because as an instructor, I know that I learn by the questions that are being asked by the students. And so if I'm in a class, I have the opportunity to learn from somebody else's questions. And then I also get to learn from the other instructor to see how they are, like you said, teaching, whether it's a pitch or not, but everyone has a different way to break something down that makes sense to someone else. Because I've got lots of signs on my walls in here. And one of them over there says, one size never fits all. So, oh yeah, this is my monitor falling. So yeah, I warned you guys about that in the beginning.
Yes, we've been warned if Brooke's camera just up and turns off, it's because the monitor fell over.
Yeah, it's falling off a little bit. So if I'm crooked, sorry, you're all going to just have to tilt your heads a little bit.
That's awesome.
It's funny. One of the things I talked about at the Gun Rights Policy Convention 2 years ago was the up and coming growth of these new shooters, and how we as instructors need to kind of accommodate them. A lot of times people think that their way is the only way that it can be learned, and it's not true. We run into a lot of folks that are, they fail under the assertiveness of authority, and I do remember saying that. And it's like sometimes you need to learn how your student learns before you can teach them, instead of just telling them the 4 fundamentals and go out there in the range.
Right. That's one of the things that I like so much about the course that I've been teaching with my freshman class, I guess, of the ladies. And I had the same group of ladies from the basic pistol through intermediate and then through the defensive. And so it's been fun to be with them for their entire journey. They had all at least pressed a trigger before, but none of them had actually had a lot of experience with actually shooting. And so I didn't ever, they understood the basic parts of the handgun, but when it came to grip, they had to learn all that fresh. They'd never had anybody that knew what they were doing show them. Most of them learned from a significant other or dad, brother, somebody like that growing up. And so it's been really fun to be able to start with those fundamentals. And what I think the biggest thing that I've learned so far from all this is that even the people who have experience shooting, they still don't necessarily know what they should know. And we can't assume anything. You can't assume that they do know. You can't assume, of course, that they don't know anything. But it's just been really fun to take people on that journey and go with them and just see the improvements, see the fear and the anxiety melt away into accomplishment. And I've got one student who I promised her that when I was through, we would make it to where it was even fun for her to shoot. And I think that the way that we're going to accomplish that, she borrowed her friend's 22 caliber Browning 1911 for the last range session. And she said she was going to go buy one. And so I think that's what we're going to end up doing, is she's going to have fun learning how to do this the right way with a 22, so that when she steps back up to center fire, then all those fundamentals just apply right over. And all of a sudden that center fire pistol is easy and fun to shoot as well. But I promised her that we'd get her from anxiety and being terrified of guns to having fun doing it. So I've got to put my money where my mouth is now. But it's fun, and I really appreciate the fact that even in my own community now, I'm seeing so many people who are hungry for some training. And I guess if we can accomplish anything tonight with this conversation, I want people to know that, the trainers are out there. You've just got to find them. But there's somebody in your area who's doing this. And You should give them a look. And the best part is, if there's somebody else, I mean, if you don't necessarily like one instructor's style, because not everybody likes every teacher in school or every professor in college. Not everybody likes every firearms instructor. It's okay. Go find a different one and learn from them. Find one that will teach you in the way that you learn.
One of the points I
Great.
want to toss into that
Yeah.
is the fact that I had a guy that I ran into at a cocktail party, and he was talking about, oh, well, you're a gun person and I'm a gun person, and he went into this whole thing, and he was like, my instructor. And so I talked about a class I was at and a class I was planning on going. He's like, oh no, I only go to this instructor. He knows everything that I need to know. And I'm like,
Okay.
I don't think that's how that works.
That's
Yeah,
not
we
how
have
any
that
of this
problem
works.
a lot in Connecticut because people are like, oh, when I say I'm an instructor, like, oh, I've got my permit. I'm like, dude, you took one, maybe 8-hour class and shot 5 or 10 bullets. You're set. Those are the people that freak me out because I'm just like, I am the tiniest, slowest turtle in the world. Like, I got my pistol permit in 1991. I started shooting in 2007. And
Well-
from 2007 to 2010, it was a 22 because I was afraid of the boom of a center fire.
Mhm.
My
So,
God.
See, I have Rob Campbell as my sibling. I grew up shooting or
Blowing
being
stuff
around
up?
it, or blowing stuff up, or
oh no, we blew
Hiding.
stuff up for sure.
hiding from things that blew up, right?
Right, running for cover.
Running for cover. He would make targets that when you shot them, they exploded. We named one El Bigo Bango, and we're not sure that all of the parts have still landed, or if it's still.
They're up there. They're up there.
Floating in the atmosphere
What?
somewhere.
Oh, when it went up, it was like, get under a roof now, right? I mean, because it's coming down somewhere.
That made me think
Awesome.
of I think it was oh shoot, which one of the big shoots, they had a 55-gallon drum of tannerite that they set out about 200 yards downrange, and then found the youngest shooter on the line, and that's who got to shoot it. And so it was like I don't know what he was, 12, 13-year-old kid, I think, got to do the honors, but it only took him 2 shots to hit it square on, and that was a mushroom cloud, 55
That's a
gallons
lot
of
of boom.
tannerite.
That's
The
cool.
first time I ever went to an exhibition, it was Tom Knapp and shotguns and all of this. My husband and I pulled in the parking lot, which is on a hill across the street from the gun range. We shut our door. We're walking towards the gun range, and all of a sudden, boom, boom! All the car alarms in the parking lot started going off. It was a gallon of gasoline at 100 yards.
Oh my God, that's
Oh, wow.
awesome.
So this is why you can get training, is because you can do fun things like that and learn how to do things like that and blow things up, because that's always fun.
And learn how to walk away with all your fingers and toes still attached,
Yes.
which is a bonus.
We used to have a car shoot that we then scooped up the car with a snow shovel because
That's
there
awesome.
wasn't much left.
That's
we were
awesome. That's awesome.
Literally, it was.
All right. So I gotta say, all the stuff that you said, John, I always assume no one knows anything.
Mhm.
I don't let couples come to my classes. I'm like, no, I don't want husband and wife teaching each other. No, I don't care if your brother's military. No, one-on-one, you, me, that's it. Because it's a great start. And I'm just like, I just want to show you, just because sometimes I only get an hour with them and it's one-on-one.
Mhm.
But it's just like, you were talking about just because they're military or police. Oh, yeah, I never assume they know anything. I had a 10-year veteran beat cop come to me. And I never revealed my clients' information or names, but they put a bullet in the magazine backwards. 10-year veteran beat cop.
Wow.
So no, I never assume
Wow.
anybody knows anything.
Well, when somebody tells me that they've got, their husband, their brother, their uncle, whoever teaches them because he was a Marine, or he spent, 20 years in the Army, or whatever's the case, or he was a police officer for 30 years. I'm like, you know, whatever. What do you say to that? Smile and nod. Hey, you have fun with that.
Right.
You know.
You say thank you.
Yep,
Thank you
yep.
for your service.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, well, right, if they're there, of course. But you know, when
Right. Or if they're not there, God bless them.
You know,
you're all much nicer than me. I'm like, oh, really? What did they do? Well, all my military guys tell me that if they get to their handgun, they've already lost because they're supposed to have their rifle. So they don't know anything about handguns. So let me show you. So I am just way not as nice as you are.
Well, it depends on if we're actually in class or not. In my classroom, yes, I do assume the authority. But if I'm just on the street talking to somebody and, you know, they may be a potential student or may not, you know, oh, my husband teaches me everything I need to know. Cool. You go have fun with your husband.
Right.
If anything, I'll say, well, when that doesn't work out so hot, because I know how it is when I teach my wife stuff, give me a call.
Well,
here's my card.
If you say that you personally train with other instructors multiple times a year because it benefits to get different perspectives. That's
Well, I brag on my husband. I'm like, my husband is one of the best competitive shooters in the revolver world, blah, blah, blah. And he's an amazing instructor. I suck as a student to my husband. And that's usually the line that I give them because I'm just like, yeah, we can always do better.
Well, we've talked about that a lot in here too, is you should never learn, whether it's shooting a firearm or any other skill, you should never learn that from your significant, I can't talk tonight. I only have a
family.
Significant other or close family member.
Yeah, or close family.
Because familiarity breeds contempt, right? And when I say that, you know, most wives start nodding their heads when I say you shouldn't learn from your husband, because when he teaches you, you're not as receptive to learning as when it's a stranger. And they all start nodding their head. Yes, that's true. And
he's meaner to you than he would be to if he were teaching a stranger.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, it works both ways too. The student is meaner to the instructor when it's somebody familiar.
There's all of that pent up anger about dishes and laundry and cleaning that somehow comes out when a husband and wife are working together. I did something a couple years ago, and it worked out pretty well. I did a Mr. and Mrs. Smith and Wesson couples class. And I did it on a Friday night. I gave, if two, a husband and wife came in and took a couple came in and took a class together, I gave them a discount on the price. We did the class on a Friday night, and this didn't work out, but I wanted to reach out to a couple of local restaurants and say, hey, listen, I've got some people that are coming in and taking a class, and I'm going to want to send them out for drinks and dinner afterwards. And a couple places I reached out to didn't respond back to me, but I still ended up with I think 4 couples in the class on a Friday night.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And again, that's completely different. Learning together as a couple is way different than one member teaching the other.
Well,
yeah.
So that's really what I was trying to get at is you shouldn't learn from your spouse or significant other, but if you want to go take a class together, that's cool. If you can bond together by learning the same skill or whatever, then I mean, how cool! That's a true power couple, right? We both learned how to shoot AR-15s and how to break them down and field strip them and clean them together. So now on Sunday afternoons, that's what we do as a family: is we break down our ARs after shooting on Saturday or whatever's the case. I mean, that's cool, right?
And to be fair, the only reason I got a pistol permit in 1991 was because my then boyfriend, who is now my husband, had a permit and had a gun. So I got it because he had one.
I've got a funny story, and it involves my as I call her, my first ex-wife. She took a class. We both got our licenses, in 2002. We got divorced in 2010, and she let her license expire. And then, a few years later, she wanted to renew her license and wanted to get a new one. I had a class of 4 women. One of them was my ex-wife. I take out the Glock that I bought for her when we were married, and I'm, loading and unloading and, whatever. Here's going through all that stuff. And this is what she said to me. She's like, so is that the Glock you bought for me when we were married? And I was like, I can't believe that you are doing this in my class. I am the alpha dog when I'm teaching the class. So I looked at her and I said, yes, this is the gun that I bought you when we were married. When we got divorced, I kept the Glock and you kept the $3,000 ruby bracelet that I bought you. And then she did this. Oh, okay, never mind. Go ahead. And I was like, don't mess with me in my class in front of other people. And we're not even married anymore.
Sparkly things are important, man.
That's
You
right,
knew where
that's
to
right.
go.
Man,
right.
oh man, oh man.
And rubies are the best. Shout out to all my fellow July birthdays. My phone blows up every day with all my Facebook friends who have July birthdays that I didn't know. So happy birthday, July people. Mine's coming up here in about a week, just under a week. I'm going to be, 29 again, I think. So
We have someone on the panel here who recently had a birthday as well.
Right?
I
Right?
believe we
It's
do.
the 30th anniversary of a significant birthday. That's how I rate it.
So you've got some experience being 29 too. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. So I want to know all of your opinions on when I mean we all agree that people should get training. That's why we all went into it. But when somebody's just starting out, they bought a gun, COVID, whatever, the world was literally on fire. And I've got this gun. Okay, things are settled down. Classes are back in person and I can go to a class. I've got the money for a class, but I don't know where to start. So help somebody who's in that position get started. What am I looking for if I'm that person when I'm trying to find a class or find a good instructor?
Wait. I just have to ask here. You're suggesting someone goes out and buys a gun before they get training? See, I'm totally upside down there because I'm like, go get some training to figure out what kind of gun you want to buy.
Yeah, but a lot of people have already bought the gun, Brooke,
Yeah,
because
we
they
saw,
got
I mean,
all freaked out. The
20
news
million
was
people
horrible.
bought guns who may or may
Yeah.
not have had any training. So
And this
now,
is why I'm a unicorn here.
right? And that's okay. Now, I think we all can agree that would be ideal. Go
Right.
get trained first, then figure out what kind of gun you want to buy. But that's not what happened for a lot of Americans.
people.
They bought it.
Yeah.
Now they need to learn how to use it. So they're in the market finally for an instructor. Kudos for being in the market for an instructor, you out there who this applies to. So what do these folks need to know? What should they be looking for besides local? I mean, somebody that's within traveling distance.
Well, I think the big thing here is because I noticed when Brooke said that, she's like, I'm right. I'm originally from Massachusetts myself, so right on, Charlie. Go Red Sox.
Oh, I'm in Connecticut. He's in.
I know, but pass through you guys. But in the states that require training, typically the training happens prior to the gun purchase, versus in the states, the freer states, if you will, the rest of the country. We typically run into the folks that have a firearm and now potentially could be looking for training. So the perspective is a little bit different here.
Yeah,
Oh,
depending
no,
on
a
your
great
state.
point.
I'm
I
not
hadn't thought about that.
suggesting the training that you get to get your permit is actual training. It is a safety course to teach you the 3 rules of safety. It's not how to shoot a gun. So no, it's not even that. It's my personal thing of just so many people aren't told they should shoot as much as they can before they buy their first gun, because I bought my first gun to find out it was not the gun I should have bought.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think a lot of us have been there, and for anybody who's bought, more than just 1 or 2 firearms, I mean, we've all bought that one that we thought was going to be the best thing since Betty White, and then turns out it was not the best thing since Betty White. I
took a couple ladies to. They've had a lot of experience of being 29, a lot, and one lady was in her early 70s. She had a Smith & Wesson Pro Series 1911 in 45 with a 3-inch barrel, and she was shaking, and I wasn't sure if it was because of her age or if she was nervous and scared. I didn't know what it was, but I'm like, oh, I, of course, being a gun guy, I thought it was that she was nervous about the gun. And I'm like, I did the whole stupid mistake of maybe you should try something else. And then I swear to God, I thought she was going to cry on me. I'm like, oh God, Charlie, what an idiot. Just like, okay, well, this is the gun that you've got. And I get it. Guns are expensive. I mean, I got into being an instructor to support my shooting habit. So I get it. In an occupied territory where I live, you can't buy anything without a license. Well, legally. So you have to take a class in order to get a license before you can make a purchase. And I always tell people, I teach most of what I teach is the home firearm safety class, NRA home firearm safety. It's rifles, shotguns, and handguns. Oh my! We go through loading and unloading. We talk about basic gun safety. We cruise through ammunition, and we talk about the Massachusetts gun laws. Then I tell people, after you get your license, it's going to be 2 months. You're not going to remember any of this stuff. You can go back to your book, and that's cool. When you contact me when it comes time to buy a gun, and we'll go shopping, and maybe I'll send you some more stuff, and let's deal with that down the line, so that when you go to the store, you kind of know what you're looking for, and you can, maybe have a little bit of gun etiquette and be fond of the hardware, as I call it.
Mm-hmm. Nope, that's awesome. So
your question though was, what do you do to look for an instructor? And
oh, right.
no, I'm just going back to where we started.
I was gonna do the same thing, bring it back. So,
and I'm like, part of me is being quiet because I'm actually doing a 10-week instructor interview series on my YouTube channel, where that's one of the questions I ask every single person that I have interviews. And tonight, Die Muller dropped, so I'm just going to throw that out there.
Nice.
So the biggest, why is there such a huge? Anybody else hearing that?
Yeah, it's Chris.
Yes.
It's me. I'm on a new setup, so gosh darn it. Let me
real quick,
with my audio.
Let me take this opportunity to introduce our latest guest, who is here fashionably late because he's also carving time out of a busy day. You cut time short, I think, spending time with family, didn't you, to come join us? So.
Correct. Yeah, my mother-in-law is in town, so I just came from dinner. I'm all liquored up though. I had lots of wine for dinner, so
perfect.
That's what everybody gets tonight.
Perfect.
Nice.
Liquored up, Chris. I've seen sober Chris. I've seen serious Chris. Now I want to see fun liquored up Chris and see if you're any better, any different.
Indeed.
I didn't mean
it's good
better.
to see so many familiar friends and faces. So this is
so for those of you who don't know who Chris is, there was a show here. What's it been, about 10 years ago now?
Yeah, 10 years exactly, actually.
On History Channel called Top Shot, and it ran for 4 seasons, and then they had a kind of an all-star season after that. But they took people from all walks of life. Some were professional shooters in different competitive disciplines, and some were just plain old everyman. Some were former law enforcement, military, and threw them all together and said, you're going to shoot a whole bunch of different weapons, and the best all-around shooter wins Top Shot. And danged if Chris didn't do it one of those years. So but the reason I wanted to bring you in on this conversation is because you can see things now from both points of view. We've been talking about instructor stuff because everybody in the panel, except for Defense Dad, who dropped out, and I think he'll be back, is an instructor. But you also, I remember watching you on Top Shot. So yeah, full disclosure, Chris knows this. I'm a huge fan. So it's really cool to have gotten to meet you and hang out with you down in Texas, and have you on my show on multiple occasions. But the thing is, I remember you saying that you were self-taught. You didn't go through training regimens with instructors to learn how to do the things that you knew how to do before you went on Top Shot. And if I remember right, 3 out of 4 winners were self-taught amateurs, not any kind of either competitive shooter or law enforcement or military background. And so, it seems to me like, I don't know how much time those other guys spent with instructors, but I know you had said you really didn't. So there is something to be said for training on your own time and finding your own stuff. So you've kind of, like I said, you're both sides of the coin now, and you give instruction as well sometimes now, right? Are you?
Yeah, on occasion. And I think this is a great question, right? Does somebody need to pay for professional firearms instruction and marksmanship? And I think the short answer is no, right? You don't need to necessarily pay a ton of money for either courses or instruction. Now, don't get me wrong. I highly recommend it, right? If you can afford it, right, there are plenty of awesome instructors. And for many instructors like myself and others on the panel here, we actually like to also be take instruction from other instructors as well, right? Because there's just so much to learn about not just marksmanship, but self-defense in a variety of scenarios. And it can just be very different whether you're gay and Asian like me, or smart, handsome, and black like Patrick, or amazing and like totally fantastic like Amanda. Charlie, well, Charlie's gonna be Charlie because it's Charlie.
It doesn't matter who it is, Charlie. You get it from every angle, don't you?
He comes on late. He's
Charlie's the favorite. Charlie's always the favorite to pick on.
And for any listeners, I pick on Charlie because we're friends,
I already put down that disclaimer too at the beginning.
So this is kind of funny. At AmCon last year, Chris actually took fashion tips from me.
Right, that's true.
Indeed.
I remember that.
I got some fashion inspiration.
Right.
The classic T-shirt with the sport coat look.
Yeah,
it's great. But so I mean, this notion that somebody needs to pay money, right, to learn how to use a firearm, I would say just on the face of it is not true. And I guess if you take a step back and think about our civil rights and just the simple concept of, should I or do I need to pay money to exercise my civil right? I mean, the flat answer across the board should be no. Right? Whether we're talking about your First Amendment, your Second Amendment, your right to vote, et cetera, et cetera. But I think with marksmanship, right, there's so many people who are unfamiliar with guns who naturally think, oh, right, these are can be very scary, right, and they are dangerous tools, right, in the hands of untrained users. The safe route is definitely let me go pay, right, and get an evening or a full day instruction. And again, highly recommended, nothing wrong with that. But for my path in particular, most of my training to win Top Shot was self-study. It was a self-directed study using YouTube, using blogs and discussion forums. I would just go to my home range, and most people's home ranges, right, if you kind of join your club and get to know some of the members, I was getting free advice and training from a lot of the club members, right?
I think I'm going to interrupt, Chris, because I think that's a very valid point. There are so many people who are willing to give anybody who has a gun free guidance and advice. If you go to a friend and say, I'm thinking about this gun or I'm thinking about that gun, do you have one? They'll get it. If they have one, you can borrow it, or they'll take you to the range. If they don't have one, they'll reach out to their circle to see if one of their friends has it, to borrow it, to get it to you. I mean, there is that. And then the other piece that you said that makes so much sense is, if people can self-study, if they're people who read manuals or go to YouTube, we're so rich in stuff now that's on YouTube. You can learn how to do anything you want to do there, as long as you want to learn. And so you did so much because you were seeking out that knowledge from whichever niche and nook it was and absorbing it. It's those who say, let me be rude, I have a penis so I can run a gun, right? And I don't need anything else. Those are the ones who are going to get in trouble. So
sadly, you're not wrong. We all know that those people are out there.
I'm just going to say they can also run a chainsaw and ride a motorcycle. It just comes. Yeah.
And giddy up. And
I can't ride a motorcycle. Those other things, yes, but not the motorcycle.
So I just wanted to chime in now that I'm not driving.
Yes.
Yeah, and so to build on what Chris was saying, as an instructor and as a 2A advocate, right? So I'm the president of a grassroots organization that is working tirelessly to get constitutional carry passed in our state. And I've had many a conversation with other instructors and 2A advocates, and like, how can I advocate for constitutional carry when I am a training nut, right? My profession is training. I oversee Air Force training, people who fly aircraft and go to war and do highly technical and complicated jobs. And I'm totally for them getting their training to do that. It's balancing the reality that when we really examine how often a firearm is going to be used in a defensive situation and what circumstances they are, when you really study, the majority defensive uses are not where shots are even fired, right? They're I've warned you, I have this firearm, now they back off. The other thing that I found really interesting, and to add to Chris's point, is we've all seen those natural shooters where somebody comes, they haven't touched a gun, you've basically showed them how to load a magazine, and then all of a sudden they are center mass bullseyeing left and right. You start putting the target out further and you're like, where are we going to max out? And so there's that. But the other thing is, we can't force training on people to exercise a civil right. That is just so antithetical to what the Constitution is attempting to preserve. And the challenges that I have heard from the constituents in Nebraska about the costs and the permitting fees and the delays, 45, 60 days waiting for your permit to come. And that's in, a fairly 2A friendly state like Nebraska. I can't imagine what it's like in California and the East Coast, where individuals who are literally being threatened, they know they're at risk, have all these preventative bureaucratic obstacles. And when it comes down to the debate, on the floor, all I hear is how there's going to be blood in the streets and accidents everywhere because there's going to be this proliferation of untrained gun owners. Well, in our state, we have open carry, and open carry means there is no training requirements. There are no requirements for permitting, no requirements for waiting for a permit, no requirements for training. And we've been that way since, our state has been born, and we don't have blood in the streets, and we don't have a myriad of accidents where people are injuring themselves. And to Chris's point, it's because now we live in a world where there is a world wide web of learning and education. And I have found that I have refined my own skills through YouTube as well. And I love to go out and get trained by other instructors. So I think really what's really fascinating here is what I hear as a theme is the heart and soul of all of you who are willing to reach out and provide training. And if someone came to you and could not afford it, I'd bet money on it that all of you would probably give it to them anyway.
Or at least I'd find somebody to take a pro bono case. Of course we would. Yeah,
a lot of
to add one really quick point. At the range, I would say that there's a lot of more experienced gun owners who, if they're asked a question from a newbie, there's a lot of gun owners who are happy to give some free tips and pointers. I started off in IDPA shooting, and so a lot of my IDPA shooters, I would ask them like, hey, like, what did you think of my run? And they'd be like, oh, this part of the stage, this and that, maybe try holding the gun this way or that way. And sometimes it is about humility and having either the courage or whatever you want to call it, but just say, hey, look, I want to get better. I need to ask somebody, hey, can you just look at how I'm shooting for whatever, 10, 15 rounds, and then get some free tips and advice like that. That can go a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know for me, when I started instructing, I was just asked, I've got a degree in teaching. I've been teaching since the 1900s. I was asked if I wanted to help teach these the Gun Owners Action League, which is the state's pro-gun group. They put on these things called Firearms Safety Education Days. So the director of education says, "Hey, listen, you're a cool guy and you're into this and you know what you're doing. Would you want to help people?" Yeah, of course. So he's like, "Look, there's no money, but there is lunch." And then I'm like, "Oh my God, I feel like a musician again, right? Playing for food." And so I would go and I would give my time, and I'm like, I don't care. This is fun and this is cool. And then after a couple years of that, he's like, "Hey, you should become an instructor." And I'm like, "What do I have to do?" And and then things kind of took off from there. But if somebody asked me for, like, my deal is this: I I was a gun instructor before I was a gun instructor because I was the first guy in my neighborhood that got a gun license and bought a gun. And I'd say, hey guys, you guys want to get together on Sunday afternoon? They're like, hey, you want to get drunk and watch football? And I'm like, no, I want to go shoot guns. Oh, my wife will be pissed. Oh, don't tell her. It'll be fine. And you get these guys to the range, right? You get them to the range and you're like, all right, listen, I don't know anything about shooting, but here's these 3 simple rules you got to follow. Keep your finger off the trigger. It's pointed in a safe direction, and here's how you load this, and then everything will be fine. And then we'll go have a couple beers afterwards, you know. So you teach people the stuff that you know because you enjoy it, and you like, you know. For me, I like.
Well, guys, I gotta go. It was good to see you.
Oh, good to see you.
Thanks, Trish.
Bye.
So I think, I mean, for me, that's how I started, and I enjoy if somebody asks me something at the range. Of course, you're going to take time with them. I always tell people, listen, if you want to strike up a conversation at the shooting range, ask somebody what kind of gun they're shooting. Tell them you saw one in a magazine, you thought about getting one of those. Ask them where they bought it. Ask them what how much they paid for it. Ask them how much, what they like about it, what they don't like about it, and they're going to talk for 14 minutes, and you're just going to sit there and absorb information from them.
Absolutely.
You'll even get a chance to shoot their gun.
Oh, that's the best part.
9 out of 10 times at least.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Hey, you want to shoot a magazine? Yes, I do.
That's actually how we got into IDPA. Is that Craig Buckland, who in 2010 was the IDPA champion, and he happened to be at our gun club, and there was a write-up in the club, and my husband and I were at the range next to where he was shooting, and we were done, and we're like, do you think we could watch him shoot? He's a world champion. We should go. And we went over to see him to see if he would let us watch him shoot. And the answer was no. Because instead he's like, no. Here, take my stuff. Let me show you how to do it. And that's how we got into IDPA. So it's one of those things where it's like gun people, every time I go to testify, whether it's in Hartford or DC, I wish that the media would actually come and meet all the caring, giving people that are in the gun community. And people they just want to share. They're like, especially as a girl, oh my gosh, ladies out there, if you go and ask, the guys just can't, they're so excited to see you at the range, they can't help themselves. So yes, they'll let you shoot their guns, they will help you, all of that. Dudes, I don't know what the deal is for you guys, but it's
kind of the same way, but just not as many guys because we're not as pretty.
Oh, well. But yeah, it's just like everybody wants to help everybody. Are there assholes? Of course there's assholes, but they're few and far between for the most part.
Well, and that's just it. And those are going to be the people who probably aren't going to get into a conversation with you anyway. You know, that's going to be the guy that, hey, what kind of gun are you shooting? You know, he doesn't even want to talk. He just wants to go do his thing and leave me alone. You know, get off my lawn.
What kind of gun am I shooting? Mine.
Yes, this one's mine, and yours are over there. Go deal with them.
Right.
So, and I don't want to. I know we don't have a lot of time to get into it, but some of you are even getting involved. Speaking of volunteering services, Rick Ector's got his event coming up here. Just a little over a week now in Detroit. Yes. Where he's trying to his goal is to break 2,000 ladies trained this year is what he's hoping for. So free training if you are female and you are in or near Detroit or can get to Detroit next weekend. Go sign up and register for that event. Learn how to shoot a firearm, and there will be somebody there to teach you how to do that. It's such a cool event that Rick's been doing, and it's nice to see that's taking off now and getting blessed to just grow and grow and grow.
Well, and there's amazing instructors coming from all over the country that come and volunteer and donate their time. So now it's turned into a thing to where, okay, the instructors go to help Rick, but they also go to hang with the other instructors. And so it's like this big instructor party that happens on the backside at the same time. So who's going?
So maybe next year.
Look at that. Amazing.
And Charlie even offered me a ride, and I'm just like,
there's room in the stagecoach. Come on, I'm bringing my daughter.
John, you're now an instructor. Why are you not there?
Well, I got the invite. I mean, I'm cool. Don't get me wrong.
Rick, I was on Play-Sided podcast last week with Rick, and Rick was pushing hard. He's like, are you coming? You coming? Charlie's invited you. You should go.
I got the invite too, but we a lot of the viewers already know this, besides our full-time jobs and the instructor business that we just started, my wife and I also DJ wedding receptions and dances and stuff like that. And this wedding's been booked for a year now, so I can't get out of it. And I have not been able to break up that marriage. So it's going to go through. It's going to happen. And so same thing, GRPC. I'm not going to make it because we have a wedding to do, and I haven't figured out a good way to break off that engagement either. So we're just going to go ahead and celebrate.
Next year's dates and blackouts.
That has happened.
You're totally right, Amanda, because that's my problem too, is I have booked too many things in the previous couple of months. I'm like, I actually have to stay home and make some money.
That has happened, Amanda. We have got those dates blocked off.
So Rick's event, all right, it's just legendary. It's a legendary event in the gun community. I've been trying to get to Legally Armed in Detroit, which is the name of the event. I've been trying to get to that event for years, and it's the first year where all the stars have aligned, and I'm really excited to see how does Rick and all of these volunteers process over 2,000 women, right, for free firearms instruction over Saturday and Sunday. I mean, it's just super impressive to see how Rick started this from very humble means. I think the first year, I think he trained like 40 people. Right. You know, I think he would have been happy if, 8 people showed up kind of thing. But right, even that very first year, like very successful with no advertising, no marketing. It was just very grassroots, word of mouth. And to see what he's built over the past, I think, what is this, the 8th, 9th, or 10th year?
The 11th year, yeah.
11th year, yeah. I mean, so impressive. So I'm really excited. I didn't know Patrick, Amanda, and Charlie. I didn't know you guys were going to be there. So, yeah, it's going to be a really fun weekend. And
so I first met Rick on the corner of Nashville in 2015, 2016, sometime around that. And he invited me. And so I said, sure, I'll take you up on your offer. And I was actually one of the first, like, true out-of-state or out of the adjacent state instructors. And that was something else to just, first of all, meeting different instructors and seeing their teaching style and picking up little tidbits when you're hearing them, between the shooters. And then also just the fact that it's grown and grown and grown. And next thing you know, it's a big event, and seeing a line of people who are willing and wanting to learn. Instructors know the struggle, right? You got to convince somebody to take a class, but the line is around the corner, and because there's thousands of women standing outside, and
there's the energy and the smiles on their face, and the you want to see my target. I mean, it's amazing.
Back to what Trish was saying. Rick is offering us a big fat zero for doing this. We're all traveling from across the country to Detroit. We're all putting ourselves up. We're all doing this for. I don't want to say we're not doing it for nothing. We're doing it for what we get out of it, and to network and hang out and all that sort of stuff. But we're essentially doing it for free. You know what I mean? It's costing us money to do this, and these are the things that the anti-gun wackos don't want to see and admit that people are willing to share this information.
And that's, I mean, I know that Rick's been all over as far as news interviews and podcast show interviews lately, because I'm seeing everything that he's posting up with all the links. So I'm glad that the word is getting out. But you're right. I wish they would cover more of the fact that these are all volunteers. Every instructor who's coming in is not getting paid. In fact, from what I heard, Charlie, is the $0 that Rick is paying, you get to keep all of it. You don't even have to share it with Amanda or Chris or Patrick. So, which is cool, because you need that to that recognition. So that you get to keep all of the money that he's paying out this year.
And I don't want to speak for all of us, but I'm pretty sure all of us do what we do because we love seeing someone go from fearful, apprehensive, afraid to holy crap, I can do this.
I have loved doing that for years, and I've always had this in the back of my mind, this little voice, which is Heath Ledger's voice from The Dark Knight. I know, right? It's a Joker quote, but when at the beginning of the movie, when you first see him come out and introduce himself to all of the other bad guys, they're having that meeting around the table, you know, and he comes out and he's like, oh, it's simple. You know, you guys are all scared. You're meeting in broad daylight and you're all afraid of the Batman. So we just got to kill the Batman. And he's like, they're like, why should we share our money with you? And he's like, if you're good at something, never do it for free. And I'm like, you know what? So that's when I introduce myself to new classes. I say that I've been teaching people to shoot for a long time. I've been getting paid for it just for a short amount of time, and I finally decided to go ahead and get licensed so I could make some money doing what I enjoy doing, and not be work. And you're right though, that's exactly why I do this. So it's been fun, and yeah, for those of you out there watching and listening, trust me, you're getting a lot when you do sign up for a class, and you're getting some instruction, especially from a quality instructor. But don't think for a second that instructor isn't getting something back from you that is way more valuable than the money that you're paying them. Most instructors set their prices to where they cover expenses and make a little bit of profit. This is capitalism, guys. That's how that works. We do business to do business and make money out here. But at the same time, instructors could charge a lot more for what they do. Most of them don't, because they know what they need to make, but they don't want to price themselves out of the ability of anybody to come and get that instruction.
Mhm.
We did have a question here quite a while back from Vanessa Kitty, and I want to get some perspective. Let me go back and scroll up here and find it.
It's way up there, because I know it's the one that Santel's
Yeah.
sweetheart said she'd get on there. But,
Um,
but I will
okay,
say,
so-
I need
so-
someone to work on my business plan so that I can make a little bit more money to actually cover my costs. 'cause I
right,
haven't done
that's
that
just
yet.
it. Yes. Well, and I tell you
Someone
what,
help.
I have to drive about between 30 and 40 miles to the range after I teach a class. I don't have a building, I don't have a classroom, and I don't invite strangers into my house to do this. So I rent a room to have a class, and then we have to drive over to the range, which sometimes for each class, everybody can't go on the same day, and I've had to make multiple trips to accommodate. And I'm probably, if gas doesn't come back down to a reasonable price by, after the first of the year, because again, outdoor range, winter is coming, so it's going to slow down over the winter. When we pick it back up next year, the prices are probably going to be changed, just because it's hard to make money when I have to put so much of it back into my gas tank of my vehicle. So Vanessa Kitty, just to real quick, she has some physical disabilities that she has to deal with, troubles getting around, and some muscle issues, especially on her right side. So her question is, what about those marginalized in society? Finding instructors who would honestly help train you can be insurmountable challenges, because yes, not everybody has the same physical abilities. So you all have had enough experience with instruction and being around classrooms before. So when you get that student who does have some physical, how do I want to say it, physical disabilities, or they can't do everything the same way that everybody else does them, clearly those people are not only do they also deserve to learn how to defend themselves, but if anything, they need that more than the rest of us do, because they aren't as physically capable as the rest of us. So what do you guys see? I know that nobody on my panel is going to turn away a student because they have shortcomings, but at the same time, I mean, what do you say to somebody who says, look, I've been trying to find an instructor in my area who will teach me because I've got this going on, and I can't find anybody? I mean, how do you encourage somebody to keep looking?
You can help them. I mean, and that's the thing is we have a network enough that we should be able to help them find someone who should be able to teach them. I mean, I have taught people. I had a guy who had MS. That was one of my students. I've had multiple students in wheelchairs. I've had people who are missing their trigger finger. And I had a developmentally different young man whose mother came to me and said he went to the fair and he was shooting with the air guns, the little star, the game where you have to get all the red from the star to win the stuffed animal. and he loved it. He couldn't do it, but he loved it. And he was so fixated on learning to shoot. She brought him to the gun range, and we worked on how to teach him, because he was a very good student and he was very safe, but he mentally, he was stuck at a certain age. And so we actually hooked her up with a bolt action rifle that when they went to the range, she had the bolt and it locked in a lockbox separate from the rest of the gun. And so that when they got to the firing line, she'd give him the bolt, one bullet at a time. And not only did I teach him, but I taught her how to coach him so that the two of them could continue to do this and enjoy it. I mean, so sometimes it's just listening and understanding, what do they want to get out of it, and how can you help them accomplish what they want out of it. And 5 years later, the young man shows up at the fair, and he sees me across the midway, and he runs up and he hugs me, and he tells me that he and his mom still go to the range.
That's awesome.
Did he win the stuffy?
No.
Did you give him a stuffy?
No.
Like a
And in
participation
Ohio,
trophy,
we don't
Charlie.
call
You
them
don't-
stuff.
You don't get something for free unless he earned it. So.
Yeah. Amanda has a good point, though. I mean, when it comes to overcoming some of the challenges that you do face, you have to figure out creative ways to get around them. Especially, not all of them are physically diagnosed to the person. For instance, sexual abuse, domestic violence victims, teaching them how to shoot. It's a whole different experience than teaching a police officer or someone in the military. Most of those guys, you yell at them until they understand it. And then they regurgitate it back to you the same way you yelled at them. But when it comes to, the domestic abuse and sexual abuse victims, to teach them, you have to learn how they are receptive of it and then adapt your curriculum around that.
Right. To have a student that you can't touch when you are used to.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then compound it, have it be a female student and be a male instructor. A female who was, abused by a male or assaulted or whatever is the case. Yeah, that's one of the things that I think about in my classes, and I try to remember, and I don't always. I'm working on it, but this isn't a habit that I have. I try to remember to ask permission before I even touch a student to rearrange their thumbs on their grip or something like that, But at the same time, that's something where, these are great ideas, and let's throw a few more of these out while we still have some time. You all are students. You were students before you were instructors. You will remain students. I intend to remain a student as well and learn how to, again, I think it'll make me a lot better instructor, as not just from all of your advice. I already had planned on this, but hearing the five of you say this, I mean, it lets me know that my plan was right. But when you're looking for an instructor, as from a student's perspective, what are the things that you appreciate in an instructor that people should look for? Maybe they get into a class and they're like, you know what, I didn't like the way that this person did their class. I'm probably not going to go back to them. I'm going to find somebody else. There are great instructors out there. So what are the qualities that you all see in those great instructors?
Yeah, I think for me, a great instructor is able to tailor specific feedback to the specific student, right? Because sure, there's for example, if we talk about trigger finger placement, like there's sort of the textbook place where you're supposed to place your finger on the trigger. That doesn't always work for someone, right? Because the gun's too small or the gun's too big, and if they want to keep that particular gun that they're using, you need to work with what the students got. So I think, finding instructors who, back to what Patrick was saying, right, who are creative, who know how to solve the same problem in a number of different ways. Like for me, marksmanship instruction in particular is about problem solving, where it's like, hey, the student is shooting high and to the right. Well, that can be caused by a multitude of different reasons. We need to look at sight picture, sight alignment, trigger finger placement, trigger squeeze, et cetera, stance. But it's only helpful if the instructor can specifically point out, to you, who's getting instruction. This is what I see is what you're doing that's causing your shots to land not on target. So that can be challenging, to find an instructor who has that training framework. But there are plenty of instructors who do. I saw a great question from Vanessa Kitty about LGBT students and instructors. So that's a whole another subcategory of the gun community. And so for LGBT students and instructors, there's a network called Operation Blazing Sword. And so if you are LGBT and you want to find either an LGBT instructor or a ally, there's a website called Operation Blazing Sword, where LGBT and allied instructors across the nation have put their information up on a Google map. So you can search in an area where you live to see if there's an LGBT friendly instructor. So, the sort of the feedback and also understanding the student's situation, Are they a victim of domestic violence or sexual violence? Are they a person of color? Are they a this or are they that? Sometimes, finding instructors who come from that sort of either particular experience or background, or have experience, training a variety of students. It's always hard, but the point is there are these networks, sub networks, of firearms instructors across the country for many, many needs.
One of the things that I think is important to go back to dealing with people that, whatever the terminology is, I can't remember. This
challenges.
There we go.
Thinking of words.
It's the least of my challenges, but yes. This is when it's nice to take classes with other instructors to see how they do things. I took a class with somebody a bunch of years ago, and every time you with a semi-auto, insert the magazine, rack the slide every single time. And I took a class with another guy last year, and it was hit the slide stop. And I'm like, oh, I got to retrain myself to do that, because it's certainly not a big thing, but it's just one of those things. Like, this one guy firmly believed in tap the magazine and rack the slide back, and the other guy was to insert the magazine, hit the slide stop with your thumb. So this is when it's nice when you work with other instructors to see how other people teach classes, and this is when you steal things from them and say, well, this is how this person does this. That might come in handy someday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to John's original question too about if you're someone looking for training, call the person you're going to get the training with and have a conversation. Because when I was brand new looking for training, I didn't understand what any of the prerequisites were, and they said any level, and I'm like, but what if I'm not good enough? And I just had all these questions that stopped me from signing up for stuff. Mm-hmm. And what Pat said, she says a good teacher never stops learning. So when you call the person that you may get training from, ask them what kind of training they get, because this instructors I like and the students I like are the ones who want to keep learning. If someone's like, well, I've done this for 30 years and that's just all I need, I wouldn't go there. I don't care if you've been SWAT for 30 years. What have you done to hone your instructor skills? Because I just had this conversation actually with a Marine that I was training today. And he's just like, just because someone's really good at something does not mean they are good at teaching it. Actually, Amanda, didn't you just say that earlier? I apologize. That was you too, huh? So.
No, but that's very, very true though. And the other thing is too, is if you are a beginner, if you don't have any experience, then find out what the instructor that you're talking to, if they actually have a class that is geared towards literally zero experience starting from the ground up, or because not all instructors do that. Some instructors would prefer that you have a basic grasp of the knowledge of your gun, and they're going to teach you how to do things better or do things that you're not used to doing or whatever, and build on the fundamentals. So I tell people all the time, personally, with what I'm both qualified and certified to teach right now. If you want to learn how to shoot itty bitty groups into itty bitty bullseyes, I'm not your guy. That guy or gal is out there, and
That's Chris, right?
It's exactly, it's Chris. But I mean, all joking aside, I tell people I'm not that person. Maybe one day that's going to be a thing that I offer, but right now that's not what I do. What I do is I teach you the basics, the fundamentals, so that by the time you find that other instructor, you're ready to go in that class.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a phone call a bunch of years ago from a rando student, and he gets to talking to me and says, "Hey, listen, you know what? We talked for a few minutes, and then he finally comes out and says, listen, I've been a cop for 15 years. I learned how to shoot in the academy. I did my qualification. I passed it, but I didn't do very well. Will you treat me like I'm a beginning student?" And I said, listen, during my day job, all I do is work with beginning and young instrumental musicians. All I do are fundamentals. So I went and met this guy at the range for a 2-hour range session. 15 minutes into it, I'm like, all right, we're doing the ball and dummy trick. And he's doing bang, 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 click. And I'm like, there's a problem, man. You're flinching. That's it. 15 minutes into it. And he's like, are you sure? I'm like, yes. So I sat there until he was out of ammunition and loading his magazines. And there's a live round, dummy, live round, dummy, live round, dummy, dummy, live round. And that's all I did until he got rid of that. 6 months later, I'm at a liquor store, and he comes up to me and he's like, hey, are you Charlie, the gun instructor guy? I'm like, yes.
Maybe.
Right. Who wants to? And he's like, listen, I was the cop that took the class with you. The whole dry firing thing, it really worked. I'm like, dude, this is why we have it, Mm-hmm. And it
Did he
felt
give
like
you a stuffed teddy bear?
Chris, send me your address. I will send you a stuffed teddy bear.
So, John, to go back to, what do you look for in an instructor? I think that the big thing that I look for is one who has the ability to listen and understand what it is you're looking for, and then determine whether or not that's something that they can provide.
Sure.
So there are so many. I mean, I've gone to instructors who this is what they teach, and they teach you the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E. And if you say, no, I want to learn it in French, they're like, nope, I teach A, B, C, D. They don't have the ability to teach you slightly different. Mm-hmm. But you have to say, this is what I want. And then they need to be able to, it's that communication.
Yep.
And if you can communicate with your instructor, then most of us can turn into whatever instructor you need. I mean, to a point, because most people, what they're really looking for is a walking, talking owner's manual for their gun and their skill set. Mm-hmm. And so you're kind of working as the connection between those two things to get them better.
And to build on, to build on what you're saying, Amanda, and as well as Charlie, like there are different instructors who focus on specific, areas. Like similar to Charlie, like I only teach fundamentals of marksmanship, right? That's my bread and butter. If somebody wants to learn, home defense tactics, that's not me. Like I am a student of home defense tactics, or CCW. Like I'm not a CCW expert like that. I'm not the right instructor, right? If you want to learn about CCW stuff. And so I think from a student perspective, it's really important to know, right, what you are looking for and what you're looking to learn, and also be honest, like that cop, right, Charlie, that's a great example, right? It's like, I think most people think, oh, law enforcement, like military, they must be like amazing shooters. And that's not always the case. But for that student to have the humility and say, hey, like I actually need fundamental instruction. I mean, I think that's amazing. And I think, right, we should all as students be honest with ourselves and have the humility to tell an instructor, this is what I'm looking for. And right, the instructor should have enough integrity to tell you yes or no, I am a good instructor for what you're looking for.
Sure. Well, and my own personal anecdote. So Trish had to drop out, but Trish is my instructor. She's the one that taught me to teach. She didn't teach me how to shoot. She did when my bride went through the Nebraska concealed handgun permit course, Trish was her instructor for that. She's been a friend, and like I said, I'm on the board as well for NFOA, so we work with her a lot, and she's a cool person. But when I went down to take the course to get certified and become an instructor, I brought my carry pistol and I said, look, I'm going to qualify with this gun, but I'm going to need some help because I need to learn how to stop shooting low left so I can teach other people how to stop shooting low left. And yeah, she showed me what I was doing wrong, and just a couple quick grip adjustments put me back on target, and we're good to go. And so again, if you have these issues, don't be afraid to admit to a fellow instructor, or if you're just a student looking to learn how to do things a little bit better, don't be afraid to admit, even you hardcore guys that, you know, the world says you're supposed to be macho. If you're looking for some help, get some help. Ask for help and ask that instructor to help you with what you have happening. And again, it could be a flinch. It could be something as simple as throwing some dummy rounds in a magazine and spotting it when it happens, right? Sometimes I've had people too that have told me, well, I went to the range by myself and I filmed it. I set my camera up on a tripod and I filmed myself shooting, and then I watched it back. I mean, there's some cool stuff. The perspective of having somebody else watching you do this is invaluable, even if it ends up you are the somebody else as well watching it after the fact. But it's good to have that second set of eyes. So I mean, that's why we all, not just because we get paid to instruct, but we all recommend getting some practice in with an instructor. Or again, I mean, if cost is an issue, reach out, find somebody who's going to work with you. There are programs out there, and there are instructors out there that are going to work with you with the money thing.
You don't even have to have an instructor. If you've got a friend who is an amazing shot, go to the range with them, because if you go with somebody who is better than you are, they're going to up your game. Just by
it's no
doing
different
it.
than, if you golf and you're like most people and not all that good, but you've got a buddy who's really, really good, go golf with them, watch their tee shot, whatever it is. If you shoot baskets, then watch, if you've got a friend who never misses a 3-point shot from the top of the key, watch what they're doing when they get to the top of the key, so that you can replicate that. Exactly. There are things you can pick up from TV, from YouTube, things like that. We're almost out of time here, but I do want to get this out too. And Chris, while you're still here, especially, again, coming from the finding your own resources aspect, and we've all been out there on the YouTubes. We've all seen instructors. We've seen the good, we've seen the bad, we've seen the ugly, right? So if you are going to go find your own instruction, your own online videos, YouTube or what have you, you've found that ad for, buy my DVD and I'll teach you how to shoot in 2 quick lessons or whatever. Some of those are great. Some of those are great at making that person money, but they're not as great for the student. So it's kind of a buyer beware situation out there. There's just as much or more bad info as there is good info. When you are looking for instruction and how-to videos online or wherever, we're not going to necessarily throw out specific channels or people's names, but what are some of the things that people should look for?
Wait, we can't throw out people's names?
You could.
Wait, I want to hear from Chris to find out, how did he know the stuff that he was watching was good versus
that's
what I want to know.
Yeah, that's a great question, because when I was training for Top Shot, I wasn't really a gun guy, so I didn't know who were the best shooters or the best instructors. And so my approach was literally just, I wanted to be a sponge, right? And I think, like any other skill in life, and John, you touched upon this really well, right? Whether we're talking about golf or basketball or any sport or skill, for me with marksmanship, I was literally taking any advice or tips and tricks from everyone and anyone and trying it, right? I come from a place of, You can't bash something unless you've tried, right, the approach or whatnot. And marksmanship is about problem solving, right? At the end of the day, it's how do I put this round on target? And when it is not happening, I need to have as many tools in the toolbox and tips and tricks, right, to adjust and solve for that. So, yeah, I was very instructor agnostic, right? It didn't matter if the blog I was reading was from, you know, one of the best shooters in the world or some no-name nobody, but I would take that tip or that advice and just go try it at the range. And ultimately, any sort of instruction that you receive, it's always about what works for you, right? It's like there's just no instructor out there that can say do this and like, or like shoot a Glock or, you know, shoot a SIG. It's sort of like that similarity of like an instructor who like tells you specifically to like go buy and shoot a particular brand of gun is probably not an instructor that is specific, right? Specifically, you know, tailoring their training to you. And so again, the idea here though is have an open mind, right? Any tip, trick, framework that you may come across, train for it, try and understand it. And if it works for you, great. And if it doesn't, that's fine too, but at least you know what does and doesn't work for you.
Yeah, and I would say too, because the whole reason I do this is because I got into watching gun videos on YouTube. And so not so much how to shoot, but the specific, you know, Hickok 45 and some of those kind of videos. But at the same time, if you're looking for great advice and you're going to watch several different videos, do the same thing that you should do if you're watching review videos for a gun or a cooler or, you know, a specific aftermarket part for your vehicle, whatever it is. Find a bunch of different videos, watch them all, and if everybody seems to say the same thing, you know, that this is the right way to grip a handgun, you know, or this is the right way to stand. There's a few different stances that people recommend, but for the most part, when you find that one person who says, look, everybody out there is going to tell you this and they're all wrong and I know the secret and you should do it my way, probably not going to be the best thing to follow. Right. Same with any instructor, online or in person. If they tell you their way is the only way, it's not. And I would question everything else that instructor is going to teach, because again, that's the person who hasn't been to training themselves, isn't willing to learn new things themselves. Therefore, they may be kind of set in their ways. Who wants to go to an oncologist who hasn't read a medical journal in 30 years? I mean, you know, cancer has changed in 30 years. Cancer's changed in 3 years. So, but the oncologists know that. They stay on top of things. They go to conferences. They read medical journals. They publish their own findings. You know, they stay up with it. And if an instructor's not willing to stay up with the times and learn, you know, even some of the newer guns that are finally being marketed to people with reduced grip strength, things like that. Easier to load it, easier to rack the slide, you know, all that kind of stuff, then they might not know that. They might not even know that that's a thing. And
wait, I got a story right there for that. I was at a picnic the other day, and a dude who has trained the police department for years and years and years was talking to me, invited me to come down to the range, and because we could talk guns and we could shoot. And then he rolled out that he thinks that the perfect gun for a woman is a Smith & Wesson revolver, and that mechanical semi-auto part is just a little too complex for them. And I'm like, I'm just sitting there going, okay, so you know, on so many levels, and I just wanted to say, you know, does my engineering degree negate some of that mechanical aspects? But it was such a load of bull crap.
Amanda, right? You needed to challenge him to a duel, but not like a
absolutely.
Slap him with a gauntlet across his face, Amanda.
We had a guy that called in the radio show that sort of did the same kind of thing and told me that he was trained in the military and that he could outshoot me because he was a dude, right? And And we
Remember that.
invited everybody to come to the
Oh my
range. We did it. They had to bring something to donate to charity. And we had T-shirts, and we called it the Full Metal Jackass Challenge. And so everybody got a T-shirt. And
That's awesome.
and that guy never showed up.
Wow.
And then he calls in the radio station later and says that he was there. He just didn't tell us his name. Well, when everybody came to the range, we had a thing where we gave him an opportunity to shoot against Rob and to shoot against me. And so that's what we did. So everybody who came got their own target, and they shot against Rob and I was just having a really, really good day. And so I beat everyone, and including Rob, which is pretty amazing because Rob is an amazing shot. And so this dude calls and says, well, I was there, and it was like, well, then I beat you too, right?
You didn't make yourself known, but I still beat you.
I still beat you because I beat everybody. It was an amazing day. But
That's
anyhow,
awesome.
I just
Very cool.
sometimes there's some of that. You just got to weave through it. But when you're talking about videos, one of the things that I want to recommend is that the two people that I have run into that if I have an opportunity to take a class with them, I would do it. And that would be Brian Hill and Mike Ox. And both of them, the features that they have is that they understand the human body enough that when you're doing something, they're not looking at the gun or the target. They're looking at you.
Mhm.
And so Brian Hill does some stuff with active self-protection. And so you can actually watch him on a weekly basis. And Mike Ox has got his own stuff, but both of them have videos that will help you self-diagnose things. And it's because they understand just kind of the human form. I mean, Brian Hill was a trainer for MMA fighters. And so and guns, not that those make any connection together, but he's amazing in how he does it. And the fact that all those videos are out there and they're free, it's worth your time.
And the other things that we're talking about training, no matter how long you've been shooting, if you've never had an official trainer train you, do it. I've been shooting for 13 or 14 years. I've been a competitive shooter for most of that. And I had a gentleman come to me who'd been shooting for 40 years. He bought 5 lessons from me. On the 3rd lesson, he's like, Brooke, I can't shoot with my buddies anymore. I had no idea how dangerous we were being.
Wow.
Oof.
So even if you've been shooting all of your life, go find some training. You might learn something that could save your life or maybe get you to not shoot with people that are very unsafe. Because Chris, I mean, wouldn't you say like competitive shooting, you learn a lot of safety?
Well, and I tell this story all the time. I mean, I grew up on a ranch. Guns were part of life. They're tools out there. So I had to know how to use them safely and correctly. And not as much pistol, that came later. But by the time that I actually took my concealed carry class, and we got just a real quick practice session in before we put up fresh targets to qualify. And the instructor, I mean, I was out there on the line for a whole hour at most. And I'd been shooting my whole life. And I was good. I mean, I wasn't great. I wasn't going to win any competitions. But I was good with my pistol, especially at self-defense distances. And I learned a thing or two from that instructor because that's the first time I'd ever been instructed in how to do it. Besides Dad saying, you know, point this in a safe direction, here's the trigger, you know, and I went through hunter safety, but that wasn't geared around handguns. And so, yeah, I knew how to shoot rifles and shotguns and whatnot. But yeah, my instructor taught me a thing or two when I thought I knew what I needed to know. And that is what first clued me in that, this is going to be another situation where the more I learn, the more I don't know. You know, which is, I mean, again, if you get into that in training and you find out the more you learn, the more you don't know, you get that hunger to learn more. Yeah, that's what's awesome. I'm sure that all 6 of us have been bit by that bug. I know I have.
So I want to put out a word of caution on like learning things that we don't know about. I mean, in general, yes, like I'm very supportive, but I want to call out the small number of trainers who are, I would actually put them in the dangerous category of instructors, who are very flashy. And if you just simply go onto comments on like YouTube or Instagram, you will see lots of members of the gun community say, what this instructor is doing is unsafe, it's dangerous. I'm not going to list any names, but generally speaking, the category of instruction is trying to remove a weapon from the bad guy's hands. Like that's sort of a recurring theme of, the bad guy's got a gun, pointed at the back of your head, and you're going to do this, like, grab the gun in a particular way and, twist the bad guy's wrist, and then you're going to whip the gun around. And it's like, you see this guy who is in professional, either military or law enforcement garb, and he's speaking with authority, but he's not really trained. And I've seen websites where they say, I've trained with, and then they'll list, yes, some of like the notable names, but then they've created this whole training system of their own that is very dangerous, that I would argue, puts people at risk. So just, I guess I want to say anything that looks flashy on YouTube or Instagram, where you see just sort of this like, kind of like movie Hollywood style, like firearms instruction, that's probably not what you want to go for. So I don't know if my fellow panelists have any thoughts or comments, but that's my take on things.
I went to the range one time with my kids when they were both under 7, and there was a buddy. There was another guy that was there with his 3 kids, and I don't know what the hell was going on, but I was like, "Hey, man, we gotta go. It was nice to meet you. I'll see you around sometime." Like, this is just not good. Like, your kids are out of control. One kid's got a gun, and they're like, "Hey, Dad, I need help," and you're just like, "Hey, man, woof. Look at the time. I have to leave. This is not a good place to be in, man."
And there is nothing wrong with that right there. There is nothing wrong with if you either calling them on it or getting out of Dodge. You're not going to hurt their feelings. You don't know them. You don't care if you hurt their feelings. Your responsibility is to be able to go home to your family the next day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Chris, I've definitely seen some of those videos that are very cringeworthy. Like, even a child can do this. And it's just like, no, just no. And I mean, hopefully most people watching those types of videos will kind of know, but at the same time, people don't know what they don't know.
Yep.
So.
And what I mean when I say the more I learn, the more I don't know. Yeah, I'm not saying that I want to learn how to go do somersaults and come up with, dual wielding ARs or something like that. What I mean is, the more I shoot and the more I learn from other people, the more I learn that I don't know anything. It feels like sometimes. So I know that there's a lot more to learn just with the things that I ordinarily do. And obviously I can tell by my targets, I have room to improve. And so
John, I wasn't trying to throw you under the bus or anything.
I know you weren't. But you're right though. We've all seen those videos, and they're fun because we pass them around on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And but we pass them around because they're cringeworthy. Or like the guy who, he's standing there. We've all seen the video. He's got the Smith & Wesson 29. And in the indoor range, he's standing there talking, and as he's talking, it goes off and tags him on the forehead and comes back down. He's got a nice little, probably it's, if you could see it in high res, he'd have a front sight dimple in his forehead or his nose or whatever. And they're all like, "Did you mean to do that?" Yeah. And he just keeps on talking.
He pulls
like,
the
we've all
PB
seen
Herman.
that video, right?
Yeah, pulls the PB Herman. I meant to do that.
Yeah.
Right. It's sort of like that DEA cop that says that he's a trained professional. He's got
the gun in his ear.
No, he's the undercover. The one that shoots himself in his own ass cheek after he shows the kid the gun and says it's safe, and then he reholsters it and pulls the trigger when he's holstering it.
I use that in my U classes. I'm the only professional left to handle a gun like this. Boom! Shoots himself in the leg.
Yeah. In and out a couple times.
So if
he
you
did end up on the open,
if your instructor doesn't preach safety first and second, again, maybe find every instructor worth their salt is going to teach you how to do things not only responsibly but safely. And if it doesn't feel right or it doesn't feel safe, ask questions. And if you don't get an answer that satisfies you, either ask more questions, get out of there, whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, I've had people ask me, are you sure that this gun, this M&P, can't go off even if I don't have the external safety lever turned on? I'm sure that it can. It's got a striker block, it's got the trigger safety, it's got everything else. However, I'm going to teach you to work with the safety, because if that's your carry gun, you can't always assume that you left it off and it didn't get bumped. So we're going to work on safing the gun when you reholster. We're going to work on taking off the safe when you draw, and we're not going to ignore that lever because it is there. So unless you bring a gun that doesn't have an external safety lever, we're gonna work with the safety. That's just the safe way to do it, and you have to have that muscle memory if it's a defensive gun, for sure, right? So,
so I know you wanted to wrap it up 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's okay.
What
I could talk for hours, but my
Mike,
bride-
Amanda said she was going to go to sleep half an hour ago.
yeah,
She's gotta get up in
I've
the
got my
morning.
wife up past her bedtime too. So,
what I do think is important is for people to get educated on what the self-defense laws in their state are,
yeah,
and certainly how they vary from state to state. Because this, I mean, I've talked to plenty of people over my journey as being an instructor and being at different levels, where you talk to people like, oh, absolutely, if somebody breaks in my house, I'm going to shoot the bastard. Yeah, that sounds cool. You don't have a gun yet. You have to sit through a 4-hour class. You got to wait for 2 months to get a gun license, and you got to go buy a gun. So I don't know if he's going to wait around that long. So I don't know if you've really thought this through, and plenty of people that say ridiculous things that can get you in trouble.
oh yeah,
Like, you don't want to have some moment where there's somebody recording you, whether it's on 911 or something, where you're having a Samuel L. Jackson moment and talking about this person that just broke into your house.
right. Well, and it's amazing how many eyebrows go up when I get into the state laws in Nebraska about, when deadly force is justifiable, when it's not. You can't shoot somebody just for being on your property. You can't shoot somebody just because they're stealing your car. Some states maybe, not mine. And so people have to know that, right? And yeah, learn your state laws, learn where you are and are not justified in using force, and then also deadly force, and learn the difference between the two, and kind of go from there. So if you're not going to go to an actual instructor, start there. Go to, there's so many great websites, USCCA, US Law Shield, so many great websites that you can get a list of your laws that you need to know. And if you're in a constitutional carry state, the only thing that changed, I think, in every one of those states is you don't need the permit now, but the concealed carry laws didn't change as far as where you can take it, where you can't take it, the things you need to know. They just are expecting you to be responsible enough to learn that on your own time. So yeah, go seek that out as well. And if they don't make sense,
join your local stuff, though. Join your local 2A groups, like in Mass, it's Goal, in Connecticut, it's CCDL. Patrick, what is it where you live?
It's well, it used to be GCO, but now it's GA2A.
All right, what about you, Amanda?
Buckeye Firearms.
Yep.
Chris, you got anything like that out there?
No, I blanked out for a second because I was fantasizing about. I just applied for my CCW here in San Francisco. I literally went to the sheriff's office today.
Oh, how cool! Congratulations.
Yeah, long story short,
good luck.
It's a cluster. It's a total cluster here in San Francisco. The background investigator literally told me that because of the Supreme Court decision that came down a few weeks ago, he's like, we don't know what we're doing here. We just nobody applies because everybody knows you're going to get rejected up until this big Supreme Court decision.
Now they're getting flooded.
Yeah, so they're getting flooded. They're like, we have so many people who are applying. So I'm sorry. What was this is
what you do, Chris. You do the Jedi. You do the Jedi mind trick and say, "This is the permit you're going to accept."
Yeah, yeah. I am the applicant you're looking for. No, who are the local groups in California or in the Bay
Your
Area?
2A advocacy.
Got it. Yeah. So the Cal Guns Foundation is a great one. They partner with the Firearms Policy Coalition a lot. If you're familiar with FPCB, Cal Guns Foundation, and then the California Rifle and Pistol Association is another great one. The last one I'll mention is San Diego County Gun Owners. They have taken the state by storm by starting in San Diego, but now they've been forming other sister chapters county by county.
Nice.
The San Diego County Gun Owners is expanding north as far as they can go here in
Cool.
California.
And what is it down in San Diego? Is it Gun Owners Radio?
Gun Prom. Yeah, and Gun Prom is the big annual gun event.
If you listen to Gun Owners Radio, they go live every Sunday afternoon, and you can catch them on YouTube, live or after the fact. But yeah, they talk about a lot about what San Diego Gun Owners is doing and the other groups too. So cool stuff.
You can catch them on Sunday nights after Eye on the Target Radio.
There it is. There you go.
Directly after. Yep.
Exactly right. Cool. All right. So we're going to wrap things up. There's a couple things in the comments that I did want to get to. We're not going to everybody field this one, but G-Webs is out there with some great comments, great questions. Is it better to have students with whatever issue, whether it's physical or emotional, in classes with other students or have individual instruction for them? I'm just going to field that one for everybody. And hopefully you all will agree with what I'm going to say here, but both. If they feel comfortable in the classroom with other people, cool. But there's something to be said for one-on-one range time. And so if you can arrange for just one-on-one range time where everybody's not watching them, and you can, again, adapt what you're doing to that individual's challenges that they have to work around or through, then that's going to, I think, do them the best justice to where, again, you get that one-on-one instruction. It's with anything, shooting is only one of the myriad things that applies to. Patriot in the Dark out there had some cool stuff. He said, once you find that instructor, and he was talking about when we found a good one, share it. Share those good instructors and help advertise them. Word of mouth, not only is it free, and we all love word of mouth advertising, but it's the most true. So if you see, you hear somebody saying good things about their instructor, you know they're true, because normally we only share bad news. Look at Facebook or whatever else, right? Everybody has if you ask about XYZ company, 100 comments, 99 of them are people complaining. And then there's that one person who's usually the owner's mother-in-law or something that says, oh, I go there for all my oil changes. So, and G-Web's out there. It's tough for him. He shoots so good, he has to fake a problem just to make the instructor have something to do. So
that's amazing.
That's gonna be my new excuse.
Yeah.
I always, when somebody, you spend some time working with somebody and they get a bullseye, they're always amazed, and I always say, it's all in instruction. It's all.
Yep.
It's
Not a good student, just a good teacher.
Right.
And then last but not least, I've got to get this comment on the screen because it's so awesome. Patriot in the Dark videoed himself at the range, watched it. It hasn't affected his shooting. Those of you that don't know him, he's blind.
Oh, wow.
All right. Well,
I was going to say something like maybe the lens is pointing in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hilarious. You know what? It makes me think of Robin Hood Men in Tights. When Blinken gets that sword and just goes to town on that wooden pillar in the castle. He thinks he's in the sword fight with everybody else, and he just takes that wooden pillar and whittles it down to nothing before he's done.
Awesome.
Sorry, Patriot,
Awesome
but
reference.
you made me think of that. That's if you're in a gunfight, I hope that you've got something stopping those bullets for you. No, he's a very safe, responsible shooter. As far as I know, he's legally concealed carries. Because he's got his permit. He was able to get that. You can't do that here, but some states allow it. And also, real quick, I want to mention our super chat. Pat in a bunker threw us $10. So thanks, Pat, for that. We appreciate all your support. Normally, Pat's in the panel, but I didn't know who all was going to make it tonight. I invited a lot of people, and then you all showed up because you're all awesome. So I didn't have room for everybody, so that's been pretty cool. Let's see, I think that was about all of the one last comment here. G-Webs also says, if you have range safety brochures from NRA or et cetera, and you just have a stack of them in your range bag. Leave a couple behind. They may be a teachable moment, whether or not you're seeing people be unsafe. It's just like leaving religious tracts around, right? So these are kind of like
Leave
religious tracts.
posters.
There you go. Yes, but just hang big posters up. Put them up on A-frames around you as you're shooting, and see if anybody reads them.
I have the posters too. Those things are such time travel. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so we're gonna wrap things up. We'll give everybody a chance to have any final thoughts, and then any shameless plugs that you would like to have. But I do want to put tonight's sponsor back up on the screen, because we can't do this without our sponsors. Well, we can, but we can't reach as many people. So go find us on Facebook or YouTube. And these all get put into audio later on, and they'll be published a week from today at 5 Central on all the audio platforms, so you can find all these. But go check us out, sandhillsdefense.com, or give us a call or a text, 402-851-0726. And if you're watching, it is on the screen. And if you're watching, or excuse me, you're listening on audio, you should watch. You should join us live Thursdays at 8 Central, because this is fun to get these comments in here. So real quick, we'll get everybody through here, and you know what? We'll again start with our ladies. So Brooke, we'll start with you this time. Any final thoughts that you didn't get to say, and where can people find the things that you are doing?
All right. So final thoughts. More training is always good, no matter what your skill set is, because the thing that I find addicting about firearms training is you can always be better. You can find me in Connecticut at a Great Start Shooting School. For people who don't want to look that up, you just go agsss.com. Oh, wait, and gun websites, or you can just cut and paste. I just got back from DC because I'm part of the DC project. So dcproject.info. Definitely want more people to join us and have our Second Amendment words heard. There we go. I can't make fun of Charlie anymore for finding words. And Suicide Prevention Saturday. Oh, okay, 2 things, actually, yeah. So on Thursday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern, on my YouTube channel, A Great Start Shooting School, I am actually having an instructor interview series. So far, Kelly Pigeon from Armed and Feminine, my friend who is the, Massachusetts DC project, Cariana Claire, and then this Thursday just dropped Diana Muller. You'll have to wait and see who's next week. So I think that's everything.
Awesome. Well, very happy to have you along with us tonight, and hopefully you enjoyed yourself and you won't be a stranger.
Well, I don't know. If Charlie's coming to every one of these, I will have to see what happens.
He doesn't. He's kind of a snob. Don't tell him I said that. But he's busy, and he doesn't always have time to just hang out with me on Thursdays.
It's true. He's very important, and he's very famous. Ask his sister.
He's kind of a big deal.
He is kind of a big deal. Not as big a deal as Amanda, but he's kind of a big deal.
Amanda Suffocal wants to be like Charlie.
There you go.
She wants to grow a beard?
I'm going to make that t-shirt.
Nobody could grow a beard as epic as her brother, so she's not going to. That's why she doesn't even try. So,
yeah, that's why.
That's
why.
That's only one reason why. All right, Amanda, we'll give you a chance to give any final thoughts, and then where can people find what you have to say?
So my final thoughts really are on training is search out who you think may be the best trainers and schedule them. Go and invite a friend. I'm training. I'm going to darn it, where am I going?
Sounds like
it's in Arizona. It's at
Gunsight.
Gunsight. I'm going to Gunsight.
It's only the biggest shooting school in the country. Yeah, I can imagine you couldn't think of it.
It was like it was there and it was gone. So I'm Robin Sandoval, Rob Campbell. We've invited others, but in October we're going to Gunsight. Every year I try to do 1 or 2 different training opportunities with different instructors, and so that's the advice that I'd give anybody. Is to search out different instructors and find out if they're your people. And how you can find me. So I am Sunday nights, Eye on the Target Radio, which is nationally syndicated. So we're kind of in a wide variety of places. And we're on OpsLens TV. So if you want the Howard Sternish version of sitting there watching two people talk about radio stuff, but it's kind of fun. And Friday nights at 7 p.m. I do Women for Gun Rights. And then I'm a guest host on Self-Defense Gun Stories. I'm a frequent person on the Polite Society podcast, on the Bullet, and I don't know. But Eye on the Target Radio. Try there.
So what you're saying is you're kind of a big deal too.
I don't know. I'm kind of tired. I think that's what I am.
Understood. And you have a right to be. All right. So yeah, I normally do this in counterclockwise order, but we started that way, so we're gonna go backwards now. So Patrick, we will bring you up on the screen here, and any closing thoughts for you, and where can people find you? Oh, you're muted. We can't hear you.
All right, I think I found the unmute button there.
Now I can hear you.
But anyhow, I definitely recommend, as a student or even as instructors, go out and seek training. It's super important to continuously learn and improve, because without that improvement, you will be limited to the most amount of exposure that you've had. In the heat of the moment, you go down to your fundamentals. But look for me. I am thegunfood.com. We have your ammo needs. Ship fast. Get it right to you. A few of you guys actually know there's no hesitancy in sending ammo. So whatever you need, we got it. And hit us up.
Awesome. Patrick, thank you very much for joining us tonight and hanging out, being one of my panel members here. So let's move down here to Mr. Riding Shotgun himself. Get Charlie up on the screen, and I know I've got a link courtesy of G-Webs. There it is.
All right. This was great. This was a lot of fun. I had no idea so many friends were going to be showing up. So it was always a pleasure to see everybody hang out and talk and catch up. What I want to say about the whole topic is, if you live in occupied territory and your state has a minimum training requirement, do not make that the maximum training that you get.
Yeah.
You should seek out more training above and beyond what it is that your state requires, if your state requires something. So you should think about that. You can find all my stuff on writingshotgunwithcharlie.com. You can find all of the episodes on YouTube, on Gunstreamer, on Full30, on the OpsLens app. You can listen to the show in podcast form on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. You can read about repurposing. I have an article. I'm repurposing the show, and I'm calling it Writing Shotgun with Charlie, and I'm writing articles, and I'm actually doing some extra interviews with people I've had on the show. You can find that at the Armed Lifestyle magazine, which is a free online magazine. And you can also catch me on the Polite Society podcast and on the Bullet. And whatever I'm trying to do, I'm trying to keep up with Amanda Suffocal. That's all I try to do. Thanks.
A very worthy endeavor. So, Charlie, thanks for being here.
And Charlie's always surprised how many friends he actually has.
The way you guys treat me.
What the thing is, whenever one person starts picking on Charlie, the rest of his buddies all come out of the woodwork and just show up and start getting barbs in there too. So.
Right, like everybody wants to get a kick in, Everyone wants to get one kick.
When I first met him, I'm like, dude, why does everyone pick on you? Now I know him better. I know now.
Because we can, and Charlie's such a cool guy that he just puts up with us all.
Right.
So,
well, my therapist appreciates all of it. I got to tell you.
Well, then I guess we'll keep it going. All right. So last but certainly not least, we've got Chris. Any closing thoughts from you, and where can people find you? And I don't know that I have a link to put up for you right now.
I'll give you one in a second here, but I wanted to plug the two specific pro Second Amendment training organizations that I'm on the board for. The first one that I mentioned earlier is Operation Blazing Sword. I saw one of the commenters put up the link. It's blazingsword.org. And that's if you are LGBT or an ally who wants to support the LGBT community and help those of us who want to learn how to, train safely with a firearm. The second organization that I'm a part of is called APAGOA, and it stands for Asian Pacific American Gun Owners Association. And APAGOA was started a year ago out of all of the racist attacks that have been happening against Asian Americans in our country. And we have seen this unprecedented increase in Asian American gun ownership in our country. And so one of the unique things that APAGOA is doing is offering training and instruction in foreign languages, right? Specifically Asian foreign languages. And because we've seen that language barrier has been a consistent problem amongst the Asian American community, with everything from going to the range to rent a gun to getting instruction to learning how to purchase your first firearm. And for me, I was born here in America, and I really do believe that you should learn how to speak English if you live here. But the reality is that I don't believe that speaking English should be a requisite, right, to protect yourself with a firearm and exercise your Second Amendment right if you are an American citizen and authorized, right, to, bought through our Constitution to own a firearm. So APAGOA.org is the Asian Pacific American Gun Owners Association group that I'm a part of. And then if you just want to follow me and all the fun stuff that I do with friends and on the panel here and others, topshotchris.com, and I'm also on social media. Handle is at topshotchris. Last but not least, I have a book called Shoot to Win, and it is a book for the beginning marksman for pistol, rifle, and shotgun. So Shoot to Win, you can buy it wherever books are sold.
There you go.
There it is.
It looks like that. So, although you can get one of these, but you have to know somebody. I'm going to show mine off just a little bit here because mine came with an autograph. So,
bingo.
Proud of that. All right. Thank you, all of you. Real quick, we've got the list. We will go through this. We'll get out of here. So if you were making those comments out there in the live chat, then we put your name down so we could thank you for joining us. Again, those of you that are lurking out there, we appreciate your watching, but we would love it for you to get in on the discussion as well. So please get those comments in there. Looks like, again, no comments coming yet from Facebook. We do have several people out on YouTube. DJ Play Nice, Kingpin, Scott79, Gun Websites was in and out. And again, G-Webs, thank you very much for the assist on all those links to put up on the screen. I appreciate it. Keith Gregory, Brooke Cheney out there and in here, the Gun Foodie out there and in here, Vanessa Kitty, Tacos and French Fries, Pat in the Bunker, Travis P11, G23, Mike, Gizzard Gary, Patriot in the Dark, Blitz, Chris from the 740, and Ghost Tactical did slip in there, and Ozzy Osbourne's out there too. Just getting in before the buzzer, so thank you all for watching. If you came in late, go ahead and catch the replay. It's an awesome, I think, episode, a great conversation that we all had. So you're going to want to check that out and watch it back. And if you watch on YouTube, you can replay all the live chats, all the comments. There's some good stuff, some good links out there. So I would encourage you, if you are watching this on replay out there on YouTube, then play it, watch it with the live chat replay on, so that you can see the stuff that we didn't get to and put up on the screen. And if you're watching this on Facebook, I would encourage you to go over and do that on YouTube and just see all those cool comments. But again, please hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to all the channels, not just mine, but everybody here on the panel. Subscribe and follow them on all their social media as well, and keep up with them and let them know that you appreciate all the stuff that they're doing, because I tell you what, those kind words of encouragement go way farther than any of you realize. So we get beat down, all of us as gun owners, we get beat down daily out there in the interwebs and in the real world. But a little bit of praise, a little bit of kind word goes a long ways to making us realize that it's not all for naught. And so we appreciate all that. So on behalf of Defense Dad, who had to drop out and do dad stuff, and my other regular panelists who like I said, we couldn't have everybody in here tonight, so I wanted to make sure my folks I invited in to talk about this made it onto the screen. Trish, who had to drop out, and then on behalf of Chris and Amanda and Charlie and Brooke and Patrick and Sandhill Sweetheart and myself, we love you all. Thanks for watching. God bless you. But it's time. You all got to go now. So get off my lawn.